All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here at Fletcher Wheaton. And I'm excited today. I've gotten a lot of people reaching out, especially investor type for real estate taxes in Mexico, Americans that are investing here in Mexico. So today I have on Carlos Morales, who is a tax advisor based in Mexico City. And he has experience with a lot of big companies, individuals all throughout Mexico. So, Carlos, thank you for coming on. You have any opening comments?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Fletcher. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all people that are interested in these tax issues.
Oh, well, let's jump right into it here, Carlos. From your webpage, you have quite a background in accounting. So really, what companies or individuals, what's your background when it comes to being a tax advisor in Mexico? Have you worked with a lot of people in real estate? Is it more corporations? Just kind of give us a quick overview.
Okay, so I started my professional career with local firms specialized in taxes. And the major areas I've been working for was international taxes, due diligence, and also local taxes. Afterwards, I was working for local firms. I also worked for international firm. And afterwards, I start my own practice. And at this moment, I'm working for a lot of companies. I have been attending clients, big clients, maybe like BMW, GE, UPS, Expeditors, and also a lot of real estate companies that were working a few years ago with this boom of investing in real estate. So it has been very interesting how I've been developing this specialization in real estate taxes from 5 years up to now. And now I am part of a web, international web of tax specialists named Fusion International.
Curiosity, you mentioned something interesting. Have you seen a lot more American or American Canadian people from outside of Mexico investing in Mexico, in the last 5 years versus maybe 10 or 15 years ago?
Yes, of course, it is a real boom. Some of them are investing like property share. Also, they want to live in another country. They like investing in vacation properties. But also the big investors are doing that through trusts and investing figures that come from all over the world into Mexico with big real estate developments.
I want to get right into it, Carlos. I probably get asked this question, at least once a week. How is rental tax or rental income taxed in Mexico? There's a lot of people that are coming here and they're just getting either it's a Airbnb or long-term rental, but it's just like an investment property. So can you kind of break that down, how a foreign owner would be taxed on rental income?
Okay, it's very important to settle down which is the status of, let's say, an investor. We have, a Mexican income tax, and we have the treaty to avoid double taxation. So in terms of that, the Mexican authorities are always willing to have a major part of the income tax, not to share it with other countries. So if we look at the income tax law, everything is set up to the people becoming more and more taxable subjects. So in more of the cases, we have the option to choose the tax treaty. just to avoid double taxation. So you can be a U.S. tax resident, and you can have a property in Mexico. You could be paying your taxes in the U.S. and pay taxes only on the source of income coming from Mexico, only that part. You don't have to become a Mexican taxpayer. And that's one of the things I want to take care of, to be everything clear, everything safe for everyone, just to avoid misinterpretations of laws, and to be sure of what you are paying is the right amount of money. So if you have an investment in Mexico, the obligation comes because of the place where the investment is. So if you buy a house, apartment, or whatever in Mexico, you as a US tax resident should pay taxes in Mexico. And not all the times in form of a direct taxpayer, because a US tax resident don't have a Mexican ID. So it is through a withholding. Yeah, so the withholding, if you are doing business, your client should be withholding the tax and paying that in your name.
Interesting. Would you be doing that on a monthly or a yearly basis?
Okay, that's very interesting, because the Mexican tax law say that you should pay monthly the 17th day of the following day of the due date. So if your agreement, you should pay monthly, you should pay your taxes on the 17th day of the following month. Even if you don't have the money, even if you don't collect the rent, but we can choose to pay it under the treaty. And the treaty says that you should pay when you effectively receive the payment of your rent. So that's is much more convenient for everyone. You should be paying when you receive the rent. You have the money to pay your taxes in the following month, also on the 17th of the following month of payment.
Okay. So on a monthly basis, and what percentage is that rental income going to be taxed for a foreigner?
Okay, for a foreigner, is 25% on the rentals. Okay, so we have an option. There is an option to pay under a gross up amount. Let's say that 25% may increase to maybe 30%, and you don't have to pay taxes in the US. Another option is to have that withholding, the withholding tax, as a provisional payment in the US. So you have your calculations in the US and consider as a credit the 25% paid in Mexico. That's the way it managed the treaty between Mexico and the US. You can credit and you don't have to pay taxes on both countries.
It's going to be on a monthly basis, and generally it's going to be 25%. What about like deductions? If you're paying like property management, if you have expenses and things like that, can you deduct that out of the 25%?
You know, it really is on the whole amount of the income. You don't have to write to have deductions unless you buy the property by means of trust, fideicomiso in Mexico, or an SRL or a SA company, a Mexican company. Then you can earn the income in the company, and you can have all the deductions related to obtain such income.
Okay, so if it is in a fideicomiso, you can get deductions?
Yes, of course, and we can say that you can deduct everything related that is indispensable to obtain the income. Okay, so everything like operative expenses, administrative expenses, everything you can deduct without regarding personal expenses.
Okay, nice. Yeah, no, I get a lot of people that are asking that. And I know at least here in Los Cabos, just recently, a lot of people are buying and they're going to be Airbnb it for short-term rentals. And the main reason for that, Carlos, is not only that it generates income, but also that means that if it's rented out long-term, they can't come visit because somebody's obviously going to be living there. But if it's short-term, they can block out a couple days, or whatever they want ahead of time, and they can come use it. And I know that so many people were not paying taxes that I believe the Mexican government went to Airbnb and said, we're going to deduct these taxes up front before we even distribute the money to the people. So it's kind of like people are finally becoming more compliant on that. But do you have any knowledge of the short-term rental market like that?
Yes, it has been very interesting from last year up to now. They start with a new tax regime, and it's very interesting because we have three ways of doing business within a digital platform. The first one is with registered platforms like Airbnb. If you look at the Mexican IRS, there is a listing of those authorized companies which can be doing business of that kind. Another one is those intermediates company that are not registered before the Mexican IRS. And the other way to do that is if you have the rental by your own. So the Mexican IRS trust in the registered companies like Airbnb, for example. So because they state the obligation to these companies to withhold the tax. We have two taxes for this kind of business. The first one is the income tax. And in that case, we will be talking about 4% withholding. And the VAT, the value added tax, we are talking about, let's say 8% or 16%. So in that case, if you are contracting with this kind of platforms, you can comply with everything because they are acting in your name, they're withholding taxes, and that will be enough. So if you look at this listing and you are aware of the other obligations that you should comply with, you won't have any problem of evasions or to be audited by Mexican tax authorities.
Carlos, let's say I buy a house, and let's say it's $200,000 when I buy it, and I hold on to it for 3 years, and then it's worth $300,000, and I go to sell it. So that's $100,000 capital gains right there. As a foreigner, what am I going to pay as capital gains on that $100,000?
Okay, we have two options here. The first one is the withholding tax. So let's say that you will be earning $300,000. You have to pay 25% of the amount without deductions. The other one is that you, as a U.S. resident, you name a tax representative in Mexico. So that person could calculate the tax over the gain. So you will be calculating 35% over your profit, over your capital gain. And that's very convenient in most of the cases, thinking about how prices are going up in certain times.
And that's pretty interesting too. In Cabo, for example, it's in the US dollar. Most transactions are done in the US dollars, but I'm pretty sure capital gains is always going to be paid in the Mexican peso too. So let's say that you bought a house in like 2010 and it was in the peso was 10 to 1 right then. And then you sold it, this year when it was 20 to 1 and you have that, it looks like you sold it for way more. Is there any adjustment to help out, even though like what you paid in US dollars is, not really going to reflect that increase in the currency?
Yes, of course, this gain in currency, fortunately, should not be paid on a monthly basis or yearly basis or whatever, because it could be going up and down. So just at the moment when you sell the property, even when you are selling it at the same amount of dollars, they would be a higher value in pesos. So in that case, until that moment, you should be realizing the currency gain, and you'll be paying that let's say in the first scenario with a 25% withholding, or over the amount of the gain at the 35%.
So essentially, you wouldn't necessarily be penalized if the peso jumped up dramatically like that. It's not. It would still just be, they'd go off of like the dollar basis, and then it would just go to that capital gains, like you said, either the 25% straight up or the 35% in deductions. Correct?
Right. You don't have anything to do until the moment you sell your property.
And I'm interested too to hear what Mexico City, but the pre-dial property taxes are going to be way lower in Mexico than they are in the United States. I think the average property tax in the United States right now is 1%, but you have areas in New York and Illinois that are closer to like 3%. Here in Baja, it's 0.1%. So like on a $300,000 house, you'd be paying about $300. Can you just kind of speak a little bit more your knowledge on property taxes in Mexico?
Yes, of course. We have property taxes in Mexico, not as a federal tax, as income tax or value-added tax. We have stated those locally. So for Los Cabos, the local government of Baja California Sur state the amount annually of how much should be that state tax, and they state that it should be different. Let's say for residential is 1.15 divided by 1,000. So it's less than 1%.
Yeah.
For Roland, the factor is 1226 divided by 1,000, and construction in progress is higher, is 306 divided by 1,000, and commercial is the same, 306 divided by 1,000. So it would be very less than in the US in all cases. Even if you buy a property here in Mexico City, it's higher than that. So it's an incentive for investors. And also, if you pay the amount annually in the first months of the year, you can have deductions, maybe 20 or 30%. So it's an advantage. Maybe it's an incentive of the government to promote investments there.
Exactly. I think here in Cabo, I'm not sure if it's 20 or 30% if you pay it in January. And that's obviously to encourage people to pay it. This was a while ago. I think this article I read, it was in 2016, but I was reading in Puerto Vallarta, only like 70% they were only collecting about 70% of the property taxes. So they were kind of trying to incentivize people to not only is it cheaper here if you pay it up front, just like you would in the States anyway, but if you pay it in January, and then I think if it goes to February, then it drops to like 15. Then when you get into March, it's 10%. So that you still have the incentive to pay early. but property taxes are going to be way less in Mexico.
Yes, that's very very interesting to buy properties in Los Cabos than in any other part of the country.
So it's property taxes are definitely more expensive in Mexico City.
Yes, yes, of course, it's a lot more. Maybe it's like say 3%.
Another question I have that's just kind of coming up. Have you ever heard of anybody specifically, I mean, a national or a foreigner that has been caught being delinquent on taxes, thinking that maybe somebody that's lived here for a while and just hasn't been paying taxes, and maybe they've gotten themselves into a bad situation? Have you ever heard of a situation like that?
About foreign residents,
Yeah,
or
I mean, a foreigner first, but even if you haven't, then a national as well.
well, what is doing now the Mexican IRS is a kind of auditing by their digital platform. I mean, most of the time, they are sending you notices to your mailbox. So they start with soft advice. Please pay your taxes. Afterward, they start with digital requests, and after that, they start further and further pushing you. Also, they are starting to cancel your. You have a digital stamp to print your invoices. So if you're not paying on time, if you have delays or everything, you cannot work anymore. You don't have the way to be earning income. So it's very important to have everything complied in on time, and with that you should be avoiding the situations. It's very expensive for the authorities to send, let's say, 4 people to your business to audit you. So they start making audits through digital algorithms. They are going through that way. So we have to be very responsible about the tax compliance, and also taking into account that there are 5 years opened for the authorities to ask you for everything they want. So if we are on 2021, we have opened the information to be reviewed from 2016 up to now. So once again, I haven't had problems with my clients, but people, I hear that if they start paying less or having a random behavior in your paying taxes, the computers are working on that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really hard to hide in the digital age. I mean, a great example is, the government going to Airbnb. I mean, you just can't hide that now. If you're listing your property on Airbnb, which a lot of people are doing here in Cabo, you're going to be paying taxes. And that's just before you even get your share of the rental income, they're going to be taking it out. So it just makes it so much easier to trace people in the digital age.
And also there's another very important situation. When you pay, you are using financial institutions. So financial institutions are sharing the information monthly to the Mexican IRS. And the Mexican IRS is sharing information with the US IRS. So we are, from every standpoint of view, we are very, very vigilated.
Yeah, you're not running south of the border and getting away with it. It's gonna come back and haunt you either way if you're not paying your taxes. That's what is it. The last thing is really coming to mind, Carlos, is corporations versus individuals, and I'm just curious your take on this. I have heard in the past now we just talked about how digital platforms, it's a lot easier to trace things, and they can even like you're saying, go and stop your income from coming in, which will definitely encourage you to pay your taxes. But in the past, has the Mexican IRS, the Hacienda, have they gone out after corporations more than individuals?
Well, it's a logical way of making more money for the Mexican IRS because it's profitable to be auditing a corporation. They expect to have more taxes earned from a company than from an individual. Let's say that at this point with the digital information, it's equal. Now we are on the same. But also, if you're having a property in a company, you could be safer as a person. They will be asking for information or whatever to the company and not directly to your person. So it's a shell in this case. And there's a lot more advantages to work through a company. One of them is that you own shares. You can sell part of your company to another person. You can have, as we mentioned, deductions in the company that you won't have as an individual. So it's a very interesting way to do business, and also it's a corporate way to do it. So if you are trying to, let's say, to have an option as an investor, is a good one to think about the company or a trust.
Yep. No, it's good you mentioned that because we have an SRL, and it's really good throughout all Mexico too, which is a cool thing. Man, that was a lot of good information there, Carlos, that we just went through there. Is there anything else you wanna hit on while we're on the call?
Yes. For instance, talking about these companies, when you sell the shares of the company, and this company is owning a Mexican property, then the sale of the shares is considered like capital gain. It's a very interesting thing. It's included in the Mexican tax law and also in the treaty between Mexico and the US. And you have the option to pay the tax with a withholding or on the profit. So you can handle options. You can handle the option of selling the property of your company, or you can sell the shares of your company, having interesting savings in your taxes.
Quick and powerful. I think people are going to get a lot out of it. Like I said, people are asking me a lot about taxes, and most of the information you just gave me, I knew it, but I don't want to misquote. So I'm glad that we have this one down. So thank you so much for your time. Before we get rolling, if somebody's listening to this, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Okay, the best way is through my webpage. My webpage, Business Strategy Web.
Business
with double S and then an S of strategy. There are 3 S. Web businessstrategyweb.com.
Carlos, man, thank you so much. Before we get rolling, any last comments?
No, it has been a pleasure to be with you at this moment. There's a lot of information to address in each case. Each situation is different. So it has to be addressed with a lot of care to comply with the regulations of both countries. So we can be safe, we can be doing business good if we take care of our taxes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Carlos, and thank everybody for tuning in. Until the next time, hasta luego. See you guys soon.